And what I really hope to see is that all of you will see your fight within my fight. Because we're all fighting for the same thing, really. To be seen, to be heard, to feel valued. And that, to me, is inclusivity. Thank you so much. I'm acutely aware that this is the Inclusive Volunteering Awards, and perhaps the power of inclusivity might not be the most useful topic for as I'm preaching to the converted here. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to flip the script a little bit and actually focus on how we can amplify everything that you're doing in your organizations already and take it out there to the rest of the world so that we can all improve volunteering wherever we may be. Is that okay? I hope that's all right. Yep, thank you. Now, before I begin, just a disclaimer, I'm actually not a DEIB professional. I'm an entrepreneur who just happened to have some lived experiences and a unique perspective that someone in the community said, hey, this will be really good if this person could come and talk to all our group. So I'm acutely aware of I'm not part of this industry, and I feel so welcome to be here today. And so I'm going to be sharing a few experiences from my own challenges. We're all diverse individuals, and that is our superpower. And it's also sometimes can be our challenge. And I hope that I'm going to be sharing stuff about my own challenges, which is cultural diversity. And I'll be sharing experiences from my own journey in the speaking, meeting, and events industry, and some examples of the challenges that I face. And what I really hope to see is that all of you will see your fight within my fight. Because we're all fighting for the same thing, really. To be seen, to be heard, to feel valued. And that, to me, is inclusivity. So, with that in mind, let's get started. Kicking off 9 a.m., nice and early with racism. No, just kidding. This was a video I put up on YouTube a couple of years ago, and it was sparked by a very particular incident. The incident was I was in a takeaway shop, and I was mistaken for an Uber driver. And that doesn't sound like a big deal. One of my professional colleague comedians makes a joke out of it. But in that moment, I didn't feel funny. It actually hit me quite deep. And so I did this video. It's a great story. I encourage you all to check out the QR code and watch it when you return to your organizations. It's a great entertaining story, and it's a bit longer than the 20 minutes I've got here with you today. So please do check that out. But to understand why this had such a negative impact on me, I have to take you back 10 years ago to when I started speaking. I was just a young kid from Darwin. I didn't know how the world works, and I discovered that you could be a professional speaker. You could get paid to speak. And I got invited to this conference, and it was a professional speaker conference. And it was amazing because I got to present to my new tribe, and I felt so appreciated, so loved. I rocked the stage. And then one of the traditional speakers came up to me and they said to me, can I give you some advice, mate? And I said, sure, because I'd grown up watching this guy on TV and I was so excited, like, oh my God, he's going to give me advice. What's he going to say? And he said to me, AJ, you can make a really great speaker if you dress up a bit so that no one thinks you're a taxi driver. Now, I grew up in Darwin. And I didn't quite understand that, because the taxi drivers at the time in Darwin were Greek and Italian. Didn't quite understand that. Jet back to the present, and in that moment at the takeaway store, I was thinking about maybe some of the challenges that I've had in my career aren't related to my competency. It's not because I don't have what it takes to be on big stages. Maybe there's something else going on there. And this began a bit of a quest for me to answer a very simple question. When there are people in the audience that look like me, why aren't there people on stage that look like me too? And so I began my journey. I looked into what is Australia comprised of. We've got 25.8 million people, 22.3% speak a language other than English at home, which approximation gives us around 5.7 million culturally diverse professionals. In terms of a workforce, we've got 14.2 million people, and when you apply the percentages, it works out to about 3.1 million culturally diverse professionals. So I didn't quite understand why I wasn't seeing people who looked like me on stage. And let me show you one of the conferences. So most industries have a conference. This conference I'm about to show you is the Professional Conference Organizers Association. So the people that organize the events, business events, there's about 480,000 of business events here in Australia. And the people that organize these events organize their own conference. And they chose 50 speakers to come and educate their audience. And this is what their lineup looked like. And you'll notice a sea of sameness amongst all of them. Remember, there are, 3.1 million culturally diverse professionals. Yet this was their lineup. Didn't make sense to me. Let me show you another example. The next example is from the Australian Institute of Company Directors. These are the people that are in charge of leading leaders in Australia. If you're a company director, you have to be a part of their association. They teach you how to lead better. If you're a board director, you will be a part of their association. In 2022, they put together an event called the Digital Leadership online event. And they got a panel of 34 experts to come in and teach the leaders how to use technology to lead more effectively. This was their event lineup. And again, you'll notice a sea of sameness. 3.1 million culturally diverse professionals and 34 panel members here, a sea of sameness. Now, these have been labelled some of Australia's greatest thought leaders, and they are. They really are. But I struggle to understand, again, why, if there are people who look like me in the audience, why aren't there people like me on stage, educating leaders, teaching them different ways of thinking and whatnot? And I discovered a really remarkable thing. This is a speaker bureau here in Australia, the second largest speaker bureau here in Australia. These are their consultants. They're the people in charge of choosing speakers to perpetuate those 480,000 conferences. Sea of sameness again. This is the Australian Institute of Company Directors at the time that this course was released. Sea of sameness in the leadership. Now, in all fairness, the AICD have replaced some of these leaders. Some of them are still there, but the CEO in the blue there, he's been replaced by, there's 2 new leadership members that are actually, one of their charter is to improve cultural diversity. They understand this is a problem and they are taking steps to change things. But my bigger question then became, if you've never experienced prejudice before, can you truly understand the impact it has? Perhaps, but in my experiences, no. And this manifests in all different ways. When I was talking to people about my particular challenges, many of which I'd share with you here today, I found there's around 4 archetypes, and maybe you've seen them show up in your own individual challenges. First one, the ignorant. Mate, what are you talking about? My friend Lakshmi does presentations. The unaffected. I'm not saying there is a problem, but I also don't have enough information to say there is a problem. The supportive but unhelpful, I completely agree with you. Things are changing, they're just not fast enough. And my favourite, the helpful but unwilling. I'm open to working with different speakers, but I never get any. And like I said, perhaps you've seen these archetypes in your own challenges. So I got to thinking, there is so much information. There are videos, there's YouTube topics, there's LinkedIn learning courses, there's amazing wealth of knowledge to improve inclusivity on all forms out there. And it didn't make sense to me, well, why do I still have this challenge? Why do we all, as an industry, still have this challenge when there's so much knowledge, wisdom, perspective, tools, guidelines, everything's out there? And it got me thinking about what happens when a decision is made. And I call this the point of impact. And the point of impact is when one or more people have a decision to make. In that very acute moment of space and time, what happens when a decision is made? And people make the decision based on their identity. And our identity drives our thoughts and drives our actions. And our identity is influenced by stories and lived experiences. Now, occasionally you will get a great story that really becomes a lived experience because you're there with the people sharing the story. And this is why it's so important that we learn how to tell better stories. Strategic storytelling is so important for all of us here if we really want to drive inclusivity and change. Instead, we're trying to throw information, data, facts at people. We're trying to influence their thoughts. Or we'll send them off on training sessions. And that's trying to influence their actions. And this is why we've still got this challenge today. If you influence a person's lived experiences, magical things happen. If you influence their stories, magical things happen. And so what I want to do now is actually put that to practice. And I'm going to share with you a lived experience which I turned into a story. And let's see how you feel about it. Does anyone know who this is? It's a picture of me before COVID. No. Does anyone know who this is? Just yell it out. Yep. Van Morrison. Yes! Every time I present, it's usually a younger audience. Like, is that your grandfather? No. So thank you so much for indulging me. It is Van Morrison, and he wrote this song a few years ago, and it was called Brown Eyed Girl. Yay! Awesome. Now, for years, I used to play this song. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna... Ooh, this is interesting. Okay, that's better. Yes, for years, I played this song because it's one of my favorite songs. And it's a very simple song. It has 4 chords. 1, 2, 3, 4. And for years I played it exactly how it's written, like this. Hey, where'd we go? Days when the rains came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and a running, hey, hey, skipping and a jumping. In the misty morning fog with our hearts a thumping and you, my brown-eyed girl. There's that 4th chord. You, my brown-eyed girl. And for years, I played the song exactly how it's been written. Until one day, I went out in my hometown of Darwin and I saw another musician play that song. Except his version was slightly different and it sounded more interesting. But it wasn't as efficient because it did not have 4 chords. Will's version had 6 chords. And it went like this. Hey, where'd we go? Days when the rains came down in the hollow, playing a new game, laughing and a running, hey, hey, skipping and a jumping. In the misty morning fog with our hearts a thumping and you, my brown-eyed girl. You, my brown-eyed girl. Now, which version sounds better? First one or the second one? Second. Thank you. And there's a reason for that. It's engineered in such a way to provide a better human experience. And what Will did spectacularly well was that he took a look at what's written down on paper and he reimagined it to be a better human experience. Likewise, all the organizations we belong to have stuff written down on paper. We have policies, procedures, rules, and regulations, which got us to where we are today. And if we really are to improve inclusive volunteering and take it out there to the next version, drive inclusivity, innovation, change, creativity, real meaningful, tangible outcomes, we need to have the courage to reimagine what's written down on paper and go out there and create a more inclusive volunteering force. And this is what I hope for all of you today. Share your amazing practices with one another. Share them with me. Share them with the greater, wider audience outside this room, because inside this room, I think we're doing good, but we could do better. And this is what the outside world needs to hear, your brilliance. So when you have conversations with people today, and you have conversations outside of this room, please encourage them to look at what's written down on paper and really improve inclusivity of volunteering and make tomorrow better than today. My name is AJ Kulatunga. Thank you so much for allowing me here today. Have a great conference, and I wish you nothing but success. Thank you.